Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be talking about Eiscue. Now, we did talk about Eiscue V a little while ago, and that looked kind of fun. That was a promo in Japan we've not actually gotten yet. I'm sure we will at some point in the not-too-distant future. For now, we've got a regular Eiscue, a non-Pokemon V. And I love Eiscue as a Pokemon, though I am fully aware that Eiscue is a very divisive Pokemon. It's a Marmite kind of Pokemon, love it or hate it. I'm very much in the love it camp. Shout out to the lovely David Hockman over at limitlesstcg.com/translations for bringing us a translation here. And starting off, we've got 120 HP, which is fine. It's alright. In fact, actually, no, for a basic, it's really good. You're not quite up there with things like Hooper, but it's pretty much as high as you can reasonably expect. Retreat cost of 2 gives you access to Air Balloon for free retreat, which isn't too bad. And weakness to metal is honestly alright. Zacian's huge at the moment, but it's not generally being played with other metal Pokemon. So for the time being, you're alright. Having said that, we got stuff like Metal Saucer, so you never know when Metal's going to become really good again. But being a water Pokemon is really good now. You're hitting weakness on all of those welder decks, things like Torkoal V, things like Reshiram and Charizard, which is all really, really good. Plus, you've got access to things like Quagsire to move your energy round, Frostmoth to attach extra energy, Crasher Wake for a little bit of extra consistency. I mean, it's a good time to be a water Pokemon. But what does it do? Well, the ability, according to David, is literally called Ice Face, which becomes one of my favourite ability names ever. If this Pokemon has full HP, reduce all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon by 60. Now, as a quick side note here, David's translation does specifically refer to your opponent's Pokemon, which means your own Pokemon doing damage to the bench will not, unfortunately, be stopped. You'll have to take that damage. But this is nice. Water Pokemon generally aren't big tanky Pokemon. But now all of a sudden, if your opponent wants to get a one-hit KO, they're looking at doing 180 damage. That's the Regigigas from Crimson Invasion. The one that literally did and expanded a bit does still see play for being a big tanky Pokemon that's really hard to one-hit KO. That's nice. And of course, because you're using Frostmoth to accelerate energy here, Hyper Potion becomes amazing with this. Remember, you've got to have full HP. Full HP is extremely important. So Hyper Potion becomes great. For those that may have forgotten, Hyper Potion, you have to discard 2 energy attached to the Pokemon, but then you get to heal 120 damage. Which means you're always going to be able to heal immediately from this. You will definitely get the healing done. Which is wonderful. It means you can basically guarantee full HP. Which means your opponent has to keep trying to get one-hit KOs for 180 damage, which is not always going to be easy to do. If we didn't have Hyper Potion for the healing, maybe it wouldn't be quite so good. If we didn't have Frostmoth to accelerate the energy quite so easily, maybe it wouldn't be so good. But none of that's relevant given that we do. We do have Frostmoth, and we do have Hyper Potion. Now, depending on how much they hit you for, Last Chance Potion would also be quite nice here. Last Chance Potion just, well, it heals 120 damage, but only if you've got 30 or less HP remaining, which gets a little bit awkward at that stage. Last Chance Potion is fun. It's going to rotate shortly after this, to be fair, after this comes out. But it's there, and it's worth having a little bit of a chat about. Now, it is also worth pointing out here that there are other healing options, but I don't know how many of them are good enough. I mean, Champions Festival could finally be quite fun here, but Champions Festival, if you got a full bench, heals 10 from each Pokemon during your turn. Well, it's just not enough, I don't think, here, which can be an issue. The other thing is Champions Festival is a really easy one for your opponent to use. They just fill up the bench and then they're off and rolling. So, yeah, you've been warned. And then you've also just got stuff like Potion. You could use Indeedee V, but And that does heal 20 damage from your active, and you can play multiple Indeedee and essentially heal off everything. 4 Indeedee will heal 80, add a potion to heal 30, and if they've put more than 110 on you, get KO'd. So 4 Indeedee will mean you just need a potion every turn and you're good to go. It will work, but then you've got 4 2-prize Pokemon on your bench, which kind of eliminates the whole, hey, I'm a hard-to-KO single-prize Pokemon thing. But there is an attack here as well, and the attack ain't half bad. The attack here for 1 water and 2 colorless energy does 70 damage, and it does 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, which means that Eiscue actually becomes a really good counter to itself. Because remember, Eiscue's ability here only works if it's got full HP, so the second you do even 10 damage to it on the bench, the ability turns off. Something you really need to bear in mind here if you do want to be playing around with Eiscue. So, I mean, it's quite nice. You do damage to them, and unless they're playing something like that, Stun Fist does extra damage for each of your bench Pokemon with damage counters on, is going to be a very fun one. That's going to be a cool one. But I'll be perfectly honest with you, you need to kind of dedicate to the bench damage. There'll be plenty of times doing an extra 10 damage is all right, but essentially you've got to go and do the maths. You've got to go and try and work it out yourself. So Eiscue here, you're doing 70 damage. If you come against something like a Reshiram and Charizard, you're miles away from a KO. Bit of bench damage isn't going to do it. Even something like a Victini V, after weakness, you're 50 damage away, so it's not exactly like you're going to be getting a KO on that particularly easily. But if you dedicate to the bench damage, get a bit of spread going on here, that can make a huge difference. If you're using stuff like Roxy, discard 2 Pokemon from your hand, draw 3 for each you discarded, and you're using Coughing and Wheezing that do 1 damage to everything if discarded using Roxy, then all of a sudden you are getting enough damage here that it's working. Against EX and GX decks, you add in a little bit of the old Shrine of Punishment, and now all of a sudden you're getting a lot of damage being done all over the place, and now that extra 10 from Eiscue is making a bit of a difference. So my point is that bench damage is good, but random bench damage, some of the time, it doesn't really make a difference. You need to be thinking about the amount of damage you need to do to get a KO and see if it's making a difference, or you need to be going the Roxy and Shrine of Punishment route and really actually dedicating yourself to bench damage, because if your opponent's playing a bunch of 60 HP basics, I don't know, Inkay in a Malamar deck, for instance, and you can start dropping 30 damage all over the place, that's really good. Something like a Malamar, to continue that example, has got 90 HP, so if you can do 20 damage to them on the bench, then all of a sudden they are in KO range of this. Because as I was alluding to a moment ago, you're not really KOing much with this. You'll get Jirachi's everywhere, that's quite nice. Outside of that, you're not even getting Victini V. You'll get Volcanion, and Volcanion is pretty good. It's played as a starter in a whole bunch of fire decks, so you will get Volcanion here. That's kind of lovely. But if the Pokemon you're getting KOs on are like Volcanion and Jirachi, you do need to turn around and ask yourself the question, is this actually good enough? Am I really doing enough damage here to make it worth it? And if the answer's yes, then lovely, carry on. I think the reason we play Eiscue here is because we've got Frostmoth, so we get the energy on really easily, and we can tank. And if you're playing this with Hyper Potion, and you're doing 70 and spreading 10, but you're constantly staying alive, and your opponent's having to attack you 3 or 4 times to get a KO on a single prize Pokemon, then the slightly low damage output doesn't matter. I think that's the trick to Eiscue. You accept the fact that the damage is quite low, but you make your opponent get a 3 or 4 hit KO with your ability and some healing. Maybe you even push it a bit with the bench damage as well, and you're left with a really good Pokemon. I think this is one where you've really got to build around it to make it work, or you're going to end up a little disappointed. Except with the artwork, because the artwork is amazing. Let's go ahead and give it 3 Wassies. I want to love this. I want it to be an amazing Pokemon, and I certainly think it's got potential, but you've got to build around it. I think that's the message here. But I'd like to know what you think. Do you prefer the bench damage or the tanking? Do you think it's got a chance? Do you think it's going to be an also-ran? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but they're awesome and you should definitely be checking them out. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.